In medieval Russia, parents deliberately sent their daughters to spend 3 nights with a cannibal witch, not as punishment, as preparation for marriage, because the girls who survived Baba Yaga's tests were considered ready for womanhood. The ones who failed were never seen again. This isn't a fairy tale. It's the remnant of an ancient initiation ritual that determined whether young women were worthy of living or became ingredients in the witch's iron cauldron. Good evening, fellow listener. Picture this. You open your eyes in a Russian forest, somewhere between dream and memory, in the year 1487. You're 13 years old, and your mother has just pushed you out the door with a bundle of bread and salt. Not because she hates you, because she loves you enough to risk losing you forever. The path ahead disappears into birch trees so white they look like bones in the moonlight. You know where it leads. Every girl in your village knows. At the heart of this forest stands a hut on chicken legs, surrounded by a fence made from human skulls. Inside waits Baba Yaga, the iron-toothed one, the bone mother, the witch who eats the unworthy. Well, well, another little morsel comes calling. Enter, child, and let's see if you're worth keeping alive. But let's pull back from that terrifying moment and understand what's really happening here. Baba Yaga isn't just a fairy tale monster. She's the cultural memory of something real. And what's real is far more disturbing than fiction. Across pre-Christian Slavic territories, archaeological evidence reveals a consistent pattern. Young women, typically between 12 and 15, would disappear from their communities for periods ranging from 3 days to 3 months. They'd return, if they returned, changed, scarred, initiated, adult. These weren't kidnappings. These were organised, ritualised separations. The girls were sent to women's houses, isolated dwellings where older women, often past childbearing age, would conduct initiation rites. But here's where it gets dark. The mortality rate for these initiations was significant. Russian folklorist Vladimir Prop documented accounts from the 1800s where elderly women still remembered their grandmothers talking about girls who went to the forest but fed the forest instead. Conservative estimates suggest 1 in 10 girls didn't survive. What killed them? Sometimes the physical trials, exposure, starvation, endurance tests, and sometimes the medical procedures, scarification, tattoo, dental modification. And sometimes it was the starucha, the old woman herself, who decided a girl was too weak, too stupid, or too impure to join the ranks of women. But why chicken legs? Slavic funerary practices included placing the dead in small huts elevated on stilts, death houses that looked like chicken legs from a distance. Baba Yaga's dancing hut was a house of transformation where girls underwent symbolic death to be reborn as women. The fence of skulls, also real. These initiation sites often reveal human remains, not murdered victims, but skulls of previous starucha who ran the initiations. When one died, her skull joined the protective barrier. The glowing eyes were animal fat candles placed inside, marking the boundary between mundane and sacred worlds. You're inside the hut now and your eyes adjust to the gloom. The witch is worse than the stories. Her iron teeth aren't metaphorical, they're real metal, filed to points and somehow grafted into her gums. Her fingernails curl like ram's horns. Her hair, white as bone, moves on its own. But it's her eyes that terrify you most. They're kind, almost motherly, which makes everything else about her feel like a trap. So, she says, stirring something in her massive iron cauldron, another little bird flies into my nest. Tell me, child, do you come of your own will, or do you come by compulsion? This is the first test. Every word matters. I come by my own will and by compulsion, you answer, remembering your mother's coaching. My will brings me to womanhood. Compulsion brings me to you. She smiles, iron teeth gleaming. Clever little bird. Now then, let's see if you're clean enough to serve me. She makes you strip knuckle-dud. not for perversion, for inspection. She examines every inch of your skin, looking for signs of disease, deformity, or uncleanliness. This isn't random cruelty. Historical accounts from initiated women describe identical procedures. The starуха were checking for reproductive health and genetic defects. "You'll do more," Baba Yaga declares. "Now your first task, sort these grains before dawn. Poppy seeds from dirt, wheat from chaff, good from bad, fail, and you'll season my soup." She shows you a mountain of mixed grains that would take 10 women a week to sort. Then she flies off into the night, leaving you alone with an impossible task. But here's what the stories don't tell you. You're not really alone. Hidden in the corners are other girls who've been waiting, watching, ready to help, but only if you prove yourself worthy first. The grain sorting task tests your ability to earn help, to build alliances, to navigate female social hierarchies. Let's talk about those teeth, because the iron teeth aren't just a grotesque detail, they're a historical marker. Across Eastern Europe, archaeologists have found female skeletons with deliberately modified teeth, filed to points, capped with metal. These modifications appear almost exclusively in elderly women buried apart from regular cemeteries, often near forest clearings, exactly where you'd expect to find a Baba Yaga. When a woman transitioned to becoming a starуха, she would undergo a transformation ritual. This included pulling out her human teeth and replacing them with metal ones. The pain was part of the price for the power she would wield. Why iron? In Slavic folklore, iron wards off evil spirits and marks boundaries between worlds. More practically, iron teeth served a medical function. The starуха practiced procedures requiring sterile tools. An iron-toothed woman could bite umbilical cords or perform scarification with less infection risk. Back in the hut, Baba Yaga returns with another girl younger than you dying from infection. "Your second test," the witch announces. "Save her or serve her to me for breakfast." She gives you tools that make no sense. A spindle, a comb, a mirror, and her own detached iron tooth, still warm and writhing in your palm like a metallic worm. The tooth knows where to cut. You just have to trust it and the whispered instructions from the other girls. The tooth burrows into the girl's infected wound, eating away diseased flesh with tiny grinding sounds. Blood and pus flow onto the floor, and you realise the strange patterns in the wooden boards are drainage channels, worn by centuries of similar operations. If you're finding these dark truths about folklore as fascinating as they are disturbing, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content that reveals the brutal realities behind our favourite fairy tales. Comment below to let me know where you're listening from. Particularly curious if anyone's from Slavic countries and heard different versions. Now let's return to that hut on chicken legs. While you work, Baba Yaga prepares something in her mortar, made from a human skull. She's grinding bones, child-sized bones. "Don't look so frightened," she cackles. "These are old bones, donated bones, medicine bones." The starуха were practicing physicians. They created medicines from human remains, not murdered victims, but donated bodies. Desperate mothers would bring their dead children to the forest women, believing their bones could save other children. The bone powder is calcium phosphate. Mixed with specific herbs and fungi, it creates a primitive antibiotic paste. Modern analysis of residue from these archaeological sites shows traces of penicillium molds, willow bark, aspirin, and yes, human bone meal. After the iron tooth finishes its work, she applies this paste. Within hours, the girl's fever breaks. By morning, she's conscious. "You passed the second test," Baba Yaga declares. "But can you choose who deserves to live?" She leads you to a back room. Inside are twins, both sick with the same disease. Baba Yaga has the medicine enough to save one. "Chew," she commands, "and explain your choice. Choose wrong, and all three of you feed my cauldron." This test determines whether you have the authority to make life and death decisions. It's the same choice the starucha made every time a girl failed her initiation. I choose neither, you say finally. I dilute the medicine and give half to each. Either both survive weakened, or both die together. Baba Yaga laughs. Genuine, surprised laughter. Clever little bird. You've learned the most important lesson. Sometimes the only winning move is to refuse the game. The medicine was water anyway. Both children will recover by morning. It's your final night, and Baba Yaga shows you what's really in her iron cauldron. A thick, dark liquid that seems to move on its own, reflecting faces that aren't in the room. This is memory soup, she says. Every woman who's passed through this hut, every starucha who's stirred this pot, a piece of them lives in here. When I die, my replacement will drink this, and she'll know everything I know, everything my predecessor knew, back to the beginning. This is the ultimate secret. Baba Yaga isn't immortal. She's continuous. Each starucha inherits not just the hut and tools, but the accumulated knowledge of all who came before. The iron teeth, the flying mortar, the chicken-legged hut. These are symbols of office passed down through generations. Will you drink, she asks, offering you a ladle. You raise it to your lips and taste. Nothing. Water. The real memory soup, Baba Yaga whispers, isn't something you drink. It's something you become. Every girl who survives carries a piece back to her village. The soup isn't in the cauldron. The soup is the story itself, and you're now an ingredient. Dawn breaks on your third day, but there's one more revelation. The other girls step out of the shadows, 5 of them, all from villages near yours. They've been here the whole time, not as prisoners, but as assistants, learning the deeper mysteries, preparing to become starucha themselves one day. Every generation, Baba Yaga explains, a few girls choose to stay longer, to learn not just how to be women, but how to make women. They become the midwives, the herbalists, the keepers of women's mysteries. And one of them eventually becomes me. She shows you marks on the doorframe, hundreds, maybe thousands. Each mark represents a girl who passed through. Your mark goes here. As you carve your initiation mark, Baba Yaga prepares your departure gift. Every survivor receives 3 things. A skill, you've learned basic surgery, a secret, the truth about the memory soup, and a physical token. Yours is a small iron tooth on a leather cord. When you're old, she says, when the village children fear you more than love you, when you're ready to live in the margins and deal in necessary cruelties, then you'll know what to do with that tooth. The walk home feels surreal. The forest that terrified you now feels familiar. You know which mushrooms heal and which kill. You understand the screaming faces in the bark are warnings, not curses. Your mother waits at the forest's edge. She sees you and collapses with relief. But when she embraces you, she pulls back slightly. You smell different. You stand different. The daughter she sent into the forest is gone. Your initiation changes everything. Within days, marriage proposals arrive. Not because you're more beautiful, the trials have left you thinner, scarred, aged beyond your years, but because you're proven. A girl who survives Baba Yaga can survive childbirth, can survive winter famines, can survive violent husbands. The iron tooth hidden against your breast is better than any dowry. But for every girl like you who returns triumphant, another doesn't return at all. Your best friend, Anya, was sent to the forest 2 moons before you. Her mark isn't on the doorframe. Everyone knows she's gone, but no one speaks of it. The village priest pulls you aside after Mass. He wants to know what you saw. Did you witness devil worship? Did she make you renounce Christ? You tell him what your mother told you to say. You got lost in the forest, sheltered in an old hut, found your way home. The priest doesn't believe you, but he doesn't push. Half the women in his congregation have iron teeth hidden in their jewelry boxes. Your wedding night, when it comes, is anticlimactic. Your husband expects virginal terror, but you've seen real terror. You've pushed hands into infected wounds, chosen who lives and dies. His fumbling in the dark is nothing compared to Baba Yaga's tests. The energy begins to soften now, preparing for sleep. 20 years pass, you have daughters, 3 of them. The eldest is ready. You see it in how she bleeds, how she questions, how she chafes against childhood's boundaries. The path to the forest is overgrown. Few girls make the journey anymore. The priest has grown bolder, the old ways fade. But some mothers remember. Some daughters still need proving. You give your eldest the same bundle, bread and salt. You whisper the same instructions. You don't tell her about the iron tooth in your jewellery box or the memory soup or the choices she'll face. She returns 3 days later, changed in ways only initiated women can see. She carries her own iron tooth now, her own secret. But your middle daughter watches with different eyes. Late one night, she comes to your bed. "Mother," she whispers, "I won't go to the forest. I refuse to be tested by standards I didn't create. I refuse to earn my womanhood through trial by terror." And you're proud of her. The system that created Baba Yaga, that gave old women power through young women's fear. Maybe it's time for it to die. Maybe her refusal is its own kind of courage. As sleep approaches, let these questions drift through your mind. The last documented Baba Yaga hut was burned in 1947 by Soviet authorities. Inside they found surgical tools made from bone, medicines from fungi and human remains, and a doorframe covered in thousands of carved marks, each mark a girl who survived. But did the system truly die? Or did it transform? Today, we don't send girls to forest witches, but we still test them. The iron teeth have become impossible beauty standards. The impossible tasks have become impossible expectations. The witch's hut has become 1,000 small rooms where girls learn their worth depends on their willingness to suffer. Your eyes grow heavy as the chicken legs of story carry you toward dreams. What did Baba Yaga really want? Was she protecting girls by testing them, preparing them for a world that would test them harder? Or was she perpetuating trauma, teaching each generation that womanhood requires suffering? The Russian poet Marina Tsvetaeva wrote, "The witch doesn't eat the children, the witch eats childhood itself, and we thank her for it, because who can survive in this world as a child?" The forest of your unconscious beckons. Somewhere old women still remember. They live alone, practice strange medicines, know things that can't be taught in schools. They don't have iron teeth anymore, but they have iron souls. And somewhere a 13-year-old girl stands at the edge of a metaphorical forest, holding whatever her culture gives her instead of bread and salt. The hut might be gone, but the tests remain. The witch might be dead, but the hunger that created her still prowls the borders between childhood and whatever comes after. Baba Yaga never really ate children. She ate childhood itself, one girl at a time, leaving behind women who knew how to survive in a world full of monsters because they'd already survived the monster that made them. But sometimes, fellow listener, survival is enough. And sometimes the witch was the hero all along. Sweet dreams.